The shipyard lay beneath a bruised violet sky, where broken hulls drifted like bones of forgotten leviathans. Garan Vale stood among them, his breath clouding in the thin air, the metallic scent of ozone and rust stinging his senses. The lumen's end was a wreck, hull plates warped, engine coils cracked, thruster vanes cold and dark. It was worth less than the price of a meal on any civilized world. But to Garan, who'd long ago traded purpose for silence, it was perfect. 4 credits. That was all it took to buy a ship no one wanted and disappear into the deep black where no one remembered his name. He climbed aboard through the ruptured airlock, the sound of his mechanical arms scraping against the corroded metal. Inside, the corridors yawned like the throat of some ancient beast. Dust floated in low gravity, and the ship's power core groaned with faint life. He tapped into the console, its flickering lights painting his scarred face in fractured green. "Come on, old girl," he muttered, rerouting auxiliary power. The engines coughed, exhaled blue plasma, and then, silence. The faint hum of energy returned, but with it came something else. A soft sound. Breathing. Not his. Not mechanical. He froze. Years of training still lived in his nerves. He moved soundlessly through the corridor, pulse steady, the faint red lens in his prosthetic eye adjusting to the dark. The sound came again, a quick inhalation, shallow, fearful. He followed it to the cargo bay, where shadows pooled thickly between the crates. A faint shimmer moved, as if light bent around something alive. Then he saw them. 2 small figures crouched behind a broken container, eyes glinting gold like twin suns reflected in water. They weren't human. Their skin shimmered faintly, scaled in places like living metal. The older one held a jagged piece of hull plating like a blade, shielding the smaller one. Garan raised his hand slowly, palm open. "You're trespassing," he said quietly. His voice sounded older than he remembered. The taller figure hissed, and for a moment he saw heat ripple in the air, the temperature spiking, as though she carried fire inside her. The younger one trembled, whispering something in a language that wasn't made of sound but feeling, sorrow, fear, hope. It brushed across his mind like static. He should have turned around. Should have sold the coordinates to the nearest Dominion patrol and earned enough to drink himself to death on some backwater moon. But instead, he lowered his arm. The older one blinked in confusion. "We'll be gone soon," she said, her accent sharp but fragile. Garan glanced around the bay, the half-repaired life support unit, the empty ration packs. They'd been here for days. Maybe weeks. He sighed, the weight of his past pressing against his chest like armor he could never take off. "You'd better be," he said, though something in his tone betrayed him. He walked away, the hum of the engines deepening as if the ship had awoken to listen. Somewhere deep in its metallic heart, the lumen's end seemed to exhale, and for the first time in years, so did Garan Vale. The hum of the ship deepened, filling the corridors with a faint pulse like a heartbeat returning after years of stillness. Garan sat in a pilot's chair, boots up on the cracked console, watching the holographic readouts flicker between error codes and incomplete system maps. Every time he rerouted power, something somewhere hissed, but the old freighter refused to die. He had been the same once. Too stubborn to end. The sound of movement came again from the cargo bay. He didn't bother to draw his pistol this time. When he entered, the 2 creatures, girls, almost, were awake. The older one stood protectively before the younger, golden eyes sharp. "You didn't report us," she said. Her tone was cautious, testing. Garan shrugged. "Not yet." The younger one stepped forward hesitantly, her skin shimmering faintly like light passing through smoke. "Please, we'll leave when the ship reaches a safe drift," she said, her words echoing in his mind before reaching his ears. He frowned. "Telepathy. Great. Just what I needed." The older one straightened. "We're not thieves. We're escaping." Garan leaned against a support beam, the metal cool against his back. From what? He asked. The older sister hesitated, then whispered, the Dominion. That word was enough to make his pulse quicken. He'd killed for the Dominion once, before realizing their wars were built on lies and experiments. Your lab rats, he muttered. Escaped projects. The younger one flinched. We're alive. Something in her voice, her mind, carried sorrow so deep it brushed against his own scars. He turned away, running a hand over his stubble. You picked the wrong ship. This heap's not going anywhere. But as if mocking him, the console chimed. The navigation core, long dormant, flickered with faint light. A ghostly voice, synthetic and cracked, murmured, *incoming transmission. Dominion beacon registered, Garen's blood ran cold. The ship had been tagged, probably the moment he powered it up. You've brought them here, he growled. The older sister's eyes burned with fear. They were already tracking us. They marked the ship before you bought it. The deck trembled, long-range scanners catching the faint ripple of approaching engines. Garan stormed to the cockpit, fingers dancing across the controls. Hold on to something. He punched the thrusters, the freighter lurching as it tore away from the scrapyard's orbit. The hull screamed in protest, but the stars began to move, streaking into lines of light. Behind him, the sisters clung to each other. The younger whispered through the bond, her thoughts brushing his, "They will never stop." Garan didn't reply. His jaw tightened as he watched the stars twist ahead of him. He'd spent years running from ghosts, but this time, it wasn't his own past chasing him. It was theirs, and it had just become his problem too. The lumen's end drifted through the skeletal remains of an asteroid field, its hull scorched and trembling. Garen's fingers moved across the console like a man half in trance, half in instinct. Warning symbols flared across the display, shields down to 20%, coolant leaking from the secondary engine, and a Dominion patrol cutting the distance behind them. He cursed under his breath, switching power from life support to the aft thrusters. The air grew thinner. In the reflection of the viewport, he saw them, Syrah, the elder one, pacing behind him like a caged predator, and Valen, her younger sister, sitting quietly by the NAV sphere, palms pressed together, eyes closed. They didn't speak, but he could feel their thoughts brushing the edge of his consciousness, warm and alive. Stop that, he muttered. Valen opened her eyes. It helps me guide the ship through the gravitational debris. Garan hesitated, then saw the navigation path shift smoothly through the wreckage. She wasn't lying. The girl was calculating the gravitational tides with her mind. Fine. Keep doing it, he grumbled, focusing back on the controls. Syrah leaned close enough that he could feel heat radiating from her skin. They'll send hunters, she said. Once the Dominion knows we survived, they won't stop. Garen's jaw tightened. They never do. He rerouted the flight path toward Vorn Station, a shadow market orbiting a dying red dwarf. It was the kind of place where fugitives vanished and no one asked questions. But as the ship neared the station's perimeter beacons, his transponder pinged a familiar code, an old contract signature, one he hadn't seen in years. His heart sank. Someone had already marked them for a bounty. The message was clear, *2 Dracaris specimens, alive. 50,000 credits, *. The stars outside flared with sudden light. A pirate corvette emerged from hyperspace, its hull painted in Dominion black. So much for stealth, Garan muttered. The corvette fired first, ion cannons slamming into the freighter's flank. Alarms screamed. Garan fought the controls, shouting over the noise, "Hold on." The ship spun, tumbling through debris fields. He saw Syrah brace herself and extend her hand, then fire bloomed from her palm, golden and alive, streaming through the hull as if the metal itself became translucent. The plasma tore through space, slicing a path through the enemy's shields. Garan stared in disbelief. You turned my ship into a weapon." She met his gaze, panting, scales shimmering beneath her human skin. "We were made to destroy," she said quietly. "But I don't want to." The pirate corvette shattered into a silent bloom of flame. The debris drifted past them like dying stars. Silence followed, heavy and unreal. Garan exhaled slowly, hands trembling. For the first time, he saw fear in Syrah's eyes, not of him, but of herself. He didn't speak. Just turned the ship toward the void beyond the station and pushed the engines harder. Somewhere in that endless black, he thought, redemption might still be possible, if he could keep them alive long enough to find it. The lumen's end fell out of hyperspace like a dying ember, its engines coughing against the frozen silence of an uncharted system. Ice covered the viewport, glittering like shattered starlight. Garan adjusted the trajectory manually, the autopilot was long dead. Beneath them, a planet turned slowly, its surface a pale blue-white ocean of frozen storms. He scanned the readings, oxygen thin, gravity low, no signs of life. Perfect for hiding. "We're landing," he said. The descent was brutal. The freighter scraped through crystallized clouds, lightning crawling across the wings. When they finally struck the surface, the impact tore a crater in the snow and silenced the last working engine. The hull steamed in the cold. Garan unbuckled, every muscle aching. The sisters followed him down the corridor, breath-forming clouds in the freezing air. Syrah's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, reflecting fractured stars. "Where are we?" she asked. "Nowhere," he said. "And that's exactly what we need." They made camp inside the ship's central hold. The power core pulsed faintly, providing a pocket of warmth. Outside, endless fields of ice shimmered under twin moons. Valen wandered near a cracked viewport, her fingers tracing patterns on the frost. "This world is sleeping," she whispered. Garan didn't answer. He was busy tearing apart the navigation module, trying to patch what was left of the hyperdrive. His hands worked from habit, his mind circling back to the bounty message. 50,000 credits. Enough to buy freedom for a dozen lifetimes. He didn't hear Valen collapse until Syrah screamed. Her body convulsed, eyes glowing bright gold. Energy pulsed beneath her skin, spreading through the deck plates in a web of light. "She's linking," Syrah cried. "The planet, something's reaching back." Garan rushed to her side, his mechanical hand sparking from the surge. He saw shapes flickering in her mind, colossal machines buried deep beneath the ice, humming with impossible age. The light from her body faded slowly, leaving only a whisper. "They remember us." When she awoke, she spoke of visions, dragons made of light soaring through the skies, ancient cities crumbling under the weight of stars. Garan stared at her, trying to dismiss it as delirium, but the ship's sensors confirmed faint energy readings below the surface, structures, still active. Against his better judgment, he followed the signal with them through the blizzard. Beneath the ice, they found it, a metallic spire half buried, its surface carved with symbols that pulsed when the sisters approached. The structure recognized them. The air vibrated as hidden engines awoke, and Garan felt gravity itself shift. "What is this place?" he whispered. Valen placed her hand on the cold metal. "A memory," she said softly. "Of when dragons ruled the stars, and humans tried to erase them." Garan looked up into the glowing fissures spreading through the sky and realized this frozen planet was not dead, it was waiting. And now, because of them, it had begun to wake. The sky above Erethia, 9 burned with descending fire. Dominion cruisers tore through the clouds, their ion trails turning the ice plains into mirrors of flame. Garan watched from the ridge near the ship, rifle in hand, wind howling across his scarred face. He'd spent a lifetime running from the Dominion. Now it had found him again, and this time, there was no place left to hide. He turned toward the sisters. Syrah stood near the freighter's hull, the air around her trembling with heat. Her scales shimmered through her skin, gold veins crawling along her arms like liquid fire. Valen knelt beside the ancient spire they had uncovered, her hands pressed to its surface. The structure pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, light spreading through the ice like veins awakening after centuries of slumber. "They're coming," Garan said. "Hundreds of them." Sira's gaze didn't waver. "Then we end it here." The first wave struck fast, armored soldiers dropping from orbit, weapons crackling with plasma fire. Garan moved like a machine reborn, his mechanical arm whirring as he tore through the attackers with ruthless precision. He wasn't fighting for pay now. He was fighting to protect something pure, something fragile. The sisters fought beside him, their movements inhumanly graceful. Sira unleashed waves of molten flame that melted the snow into rivers of glass. Valen sang, not with her voice, but with her mind. Her thoughts reached into the machines buried below, awakening their dormant systems. The ground began to shake. Beneath them, colossal engines roared back to life. Entire mountain ranges shifted as metallic structures rose from the ice, ancient sentinels of dragonkind responding to her call. Dominion ships fired on them, but the beams bent midair, redirected by unseen forces. Garan stumbled as the earth split, revealing a vast chasm glowing with blue energy. The spire they'd found was only a key, what it unlocked was far greater. Through the blinding storm of light, a new voice echoed on the calm Garan Vale, said Admiral Roan, cold and precise. "You should have stayed dead." Garen's breath caught. The man who'd once commanded him now led the fleet hunting him. "You taught me to finish the job," Garan growled. "Let's see if you remember how it feels to lose." He overloaded the ship's reactors, linking its dying core to the awakened machinery. The lumen's end became a fortress, cannons sprouting from its hull, power surging like a living creature. Sira took to the sky, her form splitting into wings of molten gold, casting shadows that danced across the ice. Roan's cruisers descended, and the battle began. The planet itself seemed to join the fight. Energy pillars erupted from the ground, tearing Dominion ships apart. Garan faced Roan on the shattered ridge, plasma blades clashing in the stormlight. They fought until Garen's armor was cracked and blood streaked the snow. With a final surge, he drove his blade through Roan's chest. As the admiral fell, Garan collapsed beside him, the light of the battle fading. The sisters reached him through the smoke, kneeling beside his broken form. "You can't die here," Valen whispered. Garan smiled faintly. "Wasn't planning to, not while you still need me." Above them, the frozen sky tore open, revealing the birth of something vast and ancient waking in the void. The light that swallowed the battlefield was not fire, nor plasma, nor anything human-made. It was alive. Garan drifted within it, weightless, the cold and pain gone. He opened his eyes to find himself surrounded by vast geometric shapes of light, rotating like fragments of a broken star. Through them, he saw Sira and Valen suspended in the same glow, their bodies flickering between human and dragon forms. The ancient machinery beneath Erethia 9 had fused with the freighter's dying core, and with them. He felt the ship's systems in his mind, whispering in code and memory. Asterisk integration complete. Conscious entities sustained. Asterisk his mechanical arm sparked, then steadied, merging with new circuitry that pulsed beneath his skin. The lumen's end was no longer a vessel, it had become something greater, half machine, half living being, its heart beating in unison with the sisters. "You're still with me," he said, his voice trembling. Sira smiled faintly. "You wouldn't let go." The light faded. They awoke aboard what remained of the ship, now drifting through an endless void that shimmered with distorted constellations. Garan limped to the viewport. No stars he recognized, no Dominion signals, nothing but the quiet breath of the cosmos. "We jumped," Valen whispered. "But not through hyperspace. The planet sent us somewhere between worlds." Garan looked at her, realization dawning. "Ethra Prime," he said. "You found it." Before them unfolded an impossible sight, a world shaped like a ring, its inner curve filled with floating cities and golden oceans. Massive dragon-like constructs soared between them, wings trailing lines of pure energy. The Ark of Legends was real. And it was alive. They landed near a crystalline shore, greeted by beings both human and Dracaris, descendants of those who had fled the old wars. The sisters were recognized immediately, the last of their kind. Garan watched as the people bowed before them, not in fear, but in reverence. He felt strangely out of place, a man built for killing standing in a world born from hope. Yet when Sira turned to him and said, "Stay," he didn't argue. Days blurred into peace. Garan repaired the ship's remaining systems, building something new, a guardian vessel that would protect the Ark from whatever came next. His body, part metal and part memory, no longer aged. The sisters spent their time among the cities, teaching, healing, remembering what it meant to live without fear. One night, he stood on the observation deck, the ringworld's light reflected in his eyes. The sisters approached quietly. "Do you miss it?" Valen asked. "The silence?" He shook his head. "No. This is what I was running from. Not the noise. The chance to care again." As they stood together, the stars shifted above, forming constellations that pulsed with dragonfire. Garan smiled faintly, feeling the hum of the lumens end within his chest. The assassin, the fugitives, the machine, they had all found the same thing at last. Not victory. Not vengeance. But home.